Welcome in the latest episode of the Bet and Pitch Soccer Podcast. I'm your host, _G Warner. Tonight, we're going through the top European soccer leagues best bets for this weekend, the first weekend of May. We have England, Spain, Italy, France, and Germany in that order. I'll be putting out a best bet from each of the leagues, combining them all into one selection so you can grade this podcast, come up with one ultimate best bet coming end of show. If you're not subscribed to the Betting Pitch podcast, do so on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. You also could find a Kentucky Derby episode put out there with at Big East Ben and at A Brooks Bets. One of those two, a bigger expert on the horses than another. Also have plenty of other content coming out on that platform. I'm going to be trying to work in some more baseball stuff, but that season's getting deeper and deeper in there. Of course, we're doing Soccer Recipe, doing a lot of World Cup prep as well, and looking forward to all of that, of course. And of course, anything else you'd like to subscribe to patreon.com/real_G Warner. Best spot to get all my plays, leans, reps across all sports. Trying to get everything out there 10 minutes before the play is locked in. You download the app, turn your notifications on. You should get a buzz every time I lock something in. Try to do that and give as much time as possible for our clients to get in there as much as possible. And without further ado, let's start in the English Premier League because that's where the money is. So we'll start there. First matchup is actually a later than usual 9 a.m. Central Time, probably because they had a Friday matchup this weekend. Brentford are hosting West Ham United. Currently, Brentford half a goal favorites right now with more juice, -112 to -104. If you're not a BetOnline or sportsbetting.ag customer, let me know because they offer a really nice 16 cents of juice on English Premier League, which you won't see in a sport that has a ton of juice and across all the entire sport. You don't see that very often. And so highly recommend if you're going to be betting soccer to try to save as much money as possible on little things like that, make it easier for you to win money, all those sort of things. So biggest interest for me are Brentford playing for Europe, West Ham United playing for salvation, trying to stay in the Premier League. And those are two very different type of episodes, especially considering West Ham United going on the road. That's a problem for me, in my humble opinion, just because they've been horrible all season, certainly nowhere near standards, and Brentford have been great, always play well at home. For that reason, the half-goal underdog seems really cheap to me. I think for that reason also, Brentford's goal scoring is good, but a push on 3 is really valuable to me in this matchup, so I'll lean to under 3 goals in that 9 a.m. Central Time start. We'll move next to a couple more matches in this window. Newcastle at home to Brighton. Currently Newcastle a pick'em, but surprisingly, more of the juice is on the Brighton away team a lot because Newcastle really haven't had much to play for a long time. Total in this one is 3, just very heavily to under right now. Imagine that'll fall as we get closer to game time. But clearly there's not a lot of market belief in Newcastle. The tough part for me is anyone going to St. James's Park is in for a wild and honestly difficult ride. Brighton have been, I think, overvalued for a lot of the season. Yes, playing better lately, and of course they have the advantage of Newcastle really not having much to play for. But for me, for right now, until we see lineups, I think Newcastle, yes, they might be less motivated than other clubs across England and across really the top 5 European soccer leagues we're going to cover in this episode. But with that said, Newcastle's the only way I really want to lean at a pick'em at home. Next, we go to Wolverhampton Wanderers hosting Sunderland. Currently, Wolves a half-goal underdog at home with all the juice, -119 to +103 coming back on Sunderland. Total's 2.5, and it's juiced very heavily to under. So, can you back a Premier League side that's relegated? Yes, I think generally. Late night with the real_G Warner, and of course, the odds are here. For relegation sides, really, it's a matter of, especially for teams like Wolverhampton, it was known as going to happen a long time. Their last club in all of English professional or just English soccer leagues, adult leagues, it seems, to win a match. So very unlikely they're going to stay in the Premier League anyway. It's been known for a while. You can argue motivations change based on how grim it all looked. There is sometimes a boost when a team is relegated because the pressure's off and they know that they are done and they are playing for their next job. So they have been doing that for a long time. I can't really explain the psychology of it, but it happens, and it's something I've seen before. The problem is, when does that actually occur? Do you pick them on a good day just because they're at home? I mean, unfortunately, Wolverhampton has been really great at home for a bunch of seasons that kind of kept them in the Premier League. And when the crowd turns and isn't there supporting you, usually that's a quarter of a goal that's missing from your either team total or maybe lowering the opponent's team total. All those sort of things are concerning. And maybe that explains why Sunderland's a half goal favorite. I mean, Sunderland has not been very good after a great start to their season where they're suddenly staring at the Champions League places in the Premier League, which is hilarious. But they did some great signing. They suffered a lot during their players leaving for the AFCON, some injuries there. I think Granit Xhaka got hurt, all those sort of things. But road favorite for a very defensive team just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I'll lean to Wolverhampton getting a half of a goal. I'll lean more strongly to that under 2.5, as I think that's more interesting to me in that one. We'll move to the nightcap on Saturday, and then is Arsenal hosting Fulham. And this number is going to change because I see Fulham a giant 1.5 goal underdog, or at least the juice is giant, minus 155. So I'll treat that like there's a 1.25 goal number out there. Total in this one is 2.5, and it's juiced a little bit more to over 12 of the 16 cents. So in my opinion, Arsenal have been really, really average / below average, or at least below their standards for a long time. Playing in Champions League midweek, that hurts them as well. Fulham, you can always argue, what are they playing for? Because they usually are a mid-table side that probably look more talented, but then really finish the year without doing much. Or at least they go to the beach pretty quick. And that's certainly a concern going on the road to the Emirates, because Arsenal are trying to somehow find a way from what looked like 4 trophies to be getting 2 of them. And that's the big question for me, is how they make that happen. Fulham on their side, I mean, they're, I guess, on the outside looking in at Europe, but that feels like a strong case to be made that I don't know if I agree with. But I do like the idea of fading Arsenal at this point. I would like to be more expensive, but Arsenal distracted by Champions League midweek certainly helps. And I lean under pretty much every Arsenal match because the name value makes the total higher. Yes, they've certainly staggered these numbers lower and lower and lower throughout the season, a lot because Arsenal don't concede shots, never mind goals. But that's probably my bigger interest, is under 2.5 there, Arsenal hosting Fulham. To the early slate, we have an 8 a.m. start and a 9:30 start, which looks very weird to me, but I guess we're just staggering everything. We'll start with Bournemouth, a 1-goal favorite at home to Crystal Palace. Palace playing in the Europa Conference League midweek. Total in this one is 3, just very heavily to under. So I'll put it, there's a 2 3/4 out there. And that's the real question on this matchup, is how much defense will we get from Bournemouth? They played really great over a long run heading out of the international break, and then really didn't play defense for about the 2 months before that. So that's a big question of what we can expect from them. Crystal Palace, though, certainly as 1-goal underdogs, are gigantic, enormous, all those sort of things, but they're playing for a European trophy far more than they're playing for anything in the Premier League. So that's a concern for me, especially betting the underdog as a full goal underdog. That's certainly bigger than I made it, and it's a great value type of selection there. But I think the real question is, unfortunately, what's their lineup going to look like? Because the under 3 looks very interesting with Crystal Palace as well, until you start to think who the heck's playing this matchup. And that's all those things I probably will put on my list as leans, but I certainly need to check a lineup before kickoff on Sunday. Move next to Manchester United. They're hosting Liverpool. Currently United a pick-up minus 135, which is probably minus 1/4 goal in a lot of places out there. I'll use that for this matchup. Total in this one is 3, just very heavily to over, so likely seeing some 3 1/4s out there. Don't know why. I do love that we're getting alternate numbers a lot in the Premier League. Don't have them as we speak right now, but for some reason we're getting what we get. In terms of Manchester United, I mean, it's incredible how far they've climbed up the table ahead of Liverpool as of a couple of weeks ago, from literally out of nowhere, from a near relegation consideration conversation last season. Somehow won the Europa League to find their way, or excuse me, lost the Europa League final, so they didn't play any Europe this year. And things have improved. Liverpool have been awful. I mean, there's a lot of questions on whether Arne Slot will even keep his job. We'll see end of season, all those sort of things. Pretty much their buying was terrible. I don't know if that was his fault necessarily, but Fenway Sports Group, I mean, basically sacking the entire Red Sox staff, and then whatever the heck's gone on with this Liverpool side is hilarious how poorly they performed this year. But I don't know, there's a lot for me that I want to do. The crowd will be big and will certainly be supporting Manchester United, as they really did a great job even when Manchester United was in the doldrums, or literally a trash can for a bunch of years. I think for me, most interesting is probably Liverpool's 1/4 goal underdog, which is terrifying because I don't want to back them whatsoever. I feel like they've all gotten old or weak, or just really didn't know what they were doing building a squad. And certainly they didn't get the they got the biggest shots from teams because they just won the Premier League and all that sort of stuff. So we'll go to Sunday later matchup. We'll go to Tottenham. They're a half a goal underdog on the road at Aston Villa, coming off of their Europa League midweek. Total is 2.5 in this one, just very heavily to over. So 2.75. I'll put out there as the most reasonable number, quarter goal underdog on Tottenham. So Tottenham are playing for their Premier League lives. Amazing that we're saying that. But we've found a way for that to occur. I don't know that I trust much about it, I got to say. But for me, yeah, I guess I lean to the underdog that's playing for their lives while Aston Villa are worried more about Europa League. They look like a Champions League side, I think, for next season. So that's the big question. I'll lean to Tottenham, but man, I was not really hoping for that sort of thing, I must say. Now we'll move to Monday. We'll start with Chelsea and Nottingham Forest. 2 matches on Monday, one early, one late. We'll start in that matchup, and that is Chelsea, a half a goal favorite at home with all the juice. And that's likely because Nottingham Forest played Europa League on Thursday this week. Nottingham Forest, they're also in the relegation discussions. I'll mark this as 3/4 goal underdogs on the road at Chelsea because that looks like the more fair number. That's actually more available throughout the marketplace. Total this one is 2.5. She's very heavily to over, and I'll call that 2.75 because, like I said, everything else, we're just adjusting lines this week, I guess. What lineup is Nottingham Forest going to put out there? Probably the best they got because they're trying to stay in the Premier League, and that's way more important than them winning the Europa League. Traveling to Chelsea, who are extremely dysfunctional, that helps. I don't know that a 3/4 goal underdog for a team that certainly has more to play for here, but is playing 2 matches a week and is playing a much better team with much more depth. That's certainly a concern. But I guess I'll lean to the side. Probably want a full goal of insurance. We'll see if we get that. Lean to under 2.75. Would love to get a 3 if that does pop up. To the last matchup of this match day. Everton, a 1-goal underdog at home to Manchester City. All the juice on City, so probably 1.25 is the more correct number to use. Total in this one is 3, juice very heavily to under, but a reasonable one at that. I lean under in every Everton match. This is a big question, though. So I think I actually like the side better, which does correlate to under. I don't expect Everton to be able to play in a high-scoring game with Manchester City. They don't want that. They'll try everything they can to do to stop that from happening. You could argue it might be a little bit safer to play under and Everton and either potentially in a really good setup match play, all the things going well for Everton, then you win both those bets. But you get a little bit of safety, I guess, if Everton lose 2-0, for example, and you lose the side but push the total, or you get a 2-1 late goal from Everton and you win the side and lose and push the total. I mean, that's certainly ideal. 2-2, even better for the side, not so good for the total, all those sort of things. And that's part of my strategy, is trying to reduce risk, but also concentrate a little bit. You could argue it's correlated, and that certainly doesn't reduce risk, but you could argue that sometimes, and you can split the two and somehow find a way with a push or something like that, get a win and get out of there. For an ultimate best bet, though, I make a nomination from each of the leagues I cover. I think my favorite is that Arsenal Fulham under 2.5 goals, and that is a Saturday late matchup here in the English Premier League. I need to add that to my ultimate best bet tab, and then let's move on to the next set of games, and we'll go to La Liga in Spain. And there is plenty of relegation stuff to discuss. A lot of teams in that discussion. We'll start on Saturday morning with Villarreal hosting Levante. Levante up from the Segunda División, and they're trying their best to stay in the league. They are they're a 3/4 goal underdog. I'm just not going to even say what's displayed on Bet Online. Just try to roll with me and work with what's more likely to be out there. Villarreal have been awesome in La Liga this season. We're awful in Copa del Rey, bad in Champions League, but those are cup competitions and different and certainly less important, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. Levante, meanwhile, newly promoted from Segunda División, as I already said. They've been trying to stay the league. I don't know that there's a number that I want to back them below 1. I certainly don't actually want to do that. So only real way I could look is a total, which feels really high to me. And so I like that push on 3 that's offered. I don't know if that's enough, though, for me to want to get involved. We'll next move to Valencia, hosting Atletico Madrid. Currently, Valencia, somehow, some way, a half a goal favorite at home. It's tripped me up so bad I can't even say it. minus 128 to plus 108. So they're actually more like a 3/4 goal underdog, which is amazing. A lot because that Atletico Madrid team is playing above its head, to say the least, in the Champions League, plus played Copa del Rey final last weekend. Just incredible run for them this season. Total in this one is 2.5, and it's used very heavily to over. And the big question is, what can you expect from a lineup that Diego Simeone is going to put out there? Because there's nothing really to play for in La Liga. There's a lot more on the line in Champions League. Valencia on their side, though, don't score goals very well. They're not very talented offensively. They are nowhere near the club's esteem where that should be. I think we're going to see a huge rotation again from Atletico Madrid. They've been doing it a lot lately. So I'll lean to that under 2.5 goals. We'll see if I can make that actually a push onto my card. Next, go to Alaves hosting Athletic Club Bilbao. Currently, Alaves a pick'em at home with more juice on Athletic Club. Total is 2.5, and it's juiced very heavily to under. And that's the only way I could really lean. I just have a lot of questions about the Athletic Club defense. It's never been that strong. Ernesto Valverde, their manager who's moving on into the season, you could argue that maybe he hasn't really been as focused, wanted to bring glory back to Athletic Club. They made Champions League and then flamed out of that competition. Alaves on their side have been fighting relegation for years. They're not very talented and have brought in Quique Sanchez Flores, who's another very defensive manager, formerly of Getafe, amongst other clubs. I don't think we see a lot of goals there, so under 2.5 looks interesting. Under 2.25, even if it falls there, I'm still interested and get a better juice. And pretty much every under, we're hoping for 0-0 anyway. To the nightcap on Saturday of Osasuna hosting Barcelona. Osasuna currently a half a goal underdog, but I'll call that 3/4 a goal. Total in this one is 3, and it's just more to the over. So Osasuna have been great at home, and this is going to be a tough matchup for Barcelona, who are trying to clinch another La Liga championship title, all those sort of things, especially without Champions League in their minds. Osasuna have been great at home. They were close to sacking their manager that they brought in earlier this campaign, and then things got much better and somehow kept them around, and things have improved significantly. I think it's a tough matchup for Barcelona going into El Sadar. They can certainly score goals. I think I want a full goal of insurance. I don't think we'll get that. So I'll wait. I don't really want to play unders with Barca in that high line. Moving to Sunday, we'll start with Celta de Vigo hosting Elche. Elche are a newly promoted, Celta Vigo, a usually relegation fighter who are no longer in Europa League and can put all their resources into a better La Liga finish. I'll call the total 2.75, and I'll call the side. Let's see. Let's make Elche a 3/4 goal underdog. So that fit. I mean, I backed Elche a lot this season. Earlier in the year, they were awesome. A club that came up from the Segunda División with the idea that they wanted to play. They've been horrible to play football. They've been horrible away from home. Have not been able to get wins throughout the most, if not all, the season. And they're going to a tough place to play, who now have a ton more energy, and their depth will toll. That doesn't feel good for a side play here. I probably want a full goal of insurance, so we don't have that. Biggest interest, I think, will be Elche trying to play with football, but I just don't think they're going to score much. So under 2.75 goals is my biggest interest in that matchup. Moving to the next window, we'll go Getafe hosting Rayo Vallecano, coming off their Europa Conference League midweek. Rayo fighting relegation. You could argue Getafe are as well. Right now, the Rayo side, they're getting half of a goal. Juice is pretty average there, minus 112 to minus 108. Total is 2, juice very heavily to under, and I lean that way. Certainly with two very defensive sides that are going to play a very, very boring brand of football, especially Rayo coming off the Europa League or Europa Conference League midweek. Not great for expecting goals. I think we see a low-scoring big game in that one. Very interested there. And that push on 2. Don't want to lose that because I don't play 1.75 or less. Next, go to Real Betis, hosting Real Oviedo, coming off of incredible collapse that knocked Betis out of Europe. Right now, Oviedo, a 1-goal underdog with almost all the juice, 18 of the 20 cents, and 90% of that. Total's 2.5, and it's juiced more to the over. Oviedo have been really competitive. They're another Segunda División club that were promoted this season, and it started out really horribly for them, but they've improved since then. I don't know if that's going to be enough to stay in. Probably not. And they're going to go to La Cartuja, which has been a great home away from home for Real Betis so far this season. I think for me, total is biggest interest for me, under 2.5. But that does, Real Betis are a goal scoring side, so that's going to take a big effort from Real Oviedo. And honestly, Oviedo not really scoring themselves or getting a 1-1 draw and getting out of there. I probably want more because it's about exactly what I made the total, 2.49107. To Sunday, the nightcap, Espanyol. They're trying to not do their city neighbors a favor, but they want to win. They're half a goal underdogs at home to Real Madrid. Likely a 3/4 goal underdog is out there in many places, so I'll use that. Total in this one is 3, just a little bit more to the over. Pretty normal juice there, -107 to under. Espanyol have been great. Really like backing them, especially at home. Very cheap price. I think it reflects Real Madrid's struggles so far this season. Stacking managers, all those sort of things. Total, I'm less interested in. Yes, I expect Real Madrid to be a little bit more conservative. I just don't know how much that matters, unfortunately. So I will lean to, I guess, more so to the Espanyol side than anything. To Monday, we have Sevilla hosting Real Sociedad, two former European contenders that neither made Europe this season. Sevilla currently a pick'em at home with all the juice. Total in this one is 2.5, and it's juiced a little bit more to under. Real Sociedad have been a goal-scoring team under Pellegrino Matarazzo. He has really turned up the pressure with his press, and I think that's a good thing for quieting Sevilla, who hired a very conservative manager to come in and save them, or at least keep them up. I'm most interested in Real Sociedad as they move to a 1/4 goal underdog. We'll see if that happens, but under 2.5 looks very interesting to me in that matchup, and I'll lean that way for this one. As for my best bet selection from La Liga in Spain, I will go with that Rayo Vallecano Getafe under 2 goals. Let's move to Italia, and we'll start in Serie A with, as I try to get some sort of water in my throat, we'll start with Udinese and Torino. Udinese, who, I mean, they're tough to predict. I'll put it that way. Torino, I just don't expect them to score goals ever. So we'll see what happens here. Udinese, only a 1/4 goal favorite. A lot of the juice on, though. Total's 2.25, and it's juiced more to the over, likely because the number's small, but reflects goal problems for really both those clubs, but especially Torino away from home. Probably strongest lean for me is under 2.25. Don't think we'll get 2.5, actually. Next, we'll go to Como hosting Napoli. Como currently a 1/4 goal favorite, which is amazing, but not surprising because market has loved them, and this year it's gone completely overboard. Total is 2.25 here, which is pretty low. A little bit more juice to over. Napoli have been really disappointing this year, but that's what happens when you have to all of a sudden play multiple competitions and your entire team that you didn't really reload and then sort of restock once everyone got hurt. Not great planning on their side. To the nightcap on Saturday, Atalanta hosting Genoa. Currently, Atalanta, a 1-goal favorite. Most of the juice is on the Genoa side. Total in this one is 2.75. She's very heavily to under. So Genoa are not very talented, don't really score a lot of goals. I do like the full goal of insurance, bigger than I made it. I think under 2.75 is probably more close an opportunity to potentially make my card, though. So I'll put that on my list for the ultimate best bet nominee coming from Italia Serie A later in the show. Moving to the lunchtime kickoff on Sunday in Italia. We'll start with Bologna hosting Cagliari. Currently, Bologna, a 1/2 goal favorite with all the juice. Probably will see a 3/4 pop up on Cagliari, but Bologna, I feel like they've just run out of gas, and the market has treated it that way. Total small, but that reflects Bologna running out of gas, as I just said. I don't know that I want to back Cagliari to have to score goals as I would if I backed the side. We're not going to get a full goal of insurance, I don't suspect, but I do like under 2.25 there in that matchup. And now let's see if I can get all this moved over because I'm doing basically Excel arts and crafts while we're recording. Move next to Sassuolo hosting AC Milan. Currently, Sassuolo, a 3/4 goal underdog at home with 4 cents more juice. Total in this one is 2.75, and it's juiced 2 cents more to the under. Sassuolo have been really competitive after a slow start to get their return to Serie A from Serie B coming up this season. I don't know that I really trust them against a team like Milan, but Milan's been best at defending, and that's something that doesn't really matter as much against a promoted club, though certainly Sassuolo have always been offensive in mind, in hearts, managers, all those sort of things. Lean to Sassuolo at home. It's bigger underdog than I made it, and lean to under. I think they correlate, and I don't hate the idea of being against AC Milan. We'll next go to Juventus hosting Verona, as Verona look like they're dead and buried, pretty much. Sad for them because they've been a great moneymaker to me and my family. Total this one is 3, just very heavily to under, and I don't know how much I believe in Verona going on the road and scoring here. So for that reason, it does seem fairly interesting to play under 3 goals, though Juve have been respected a lot by the marketplace. I don't know that I've necessarily agreed with it a lot of the season, but the market continues to back them. I don't really know why or how they're going to score goals. I don't really trust them to do it, but that's how they feel currently. To the nightcap on Sunday, Inter Milan hosting Parma. Currently, Parma a 1 3/4 goal underdog with all the juice on the home team, so likely climbing towards 2. We'll see if that occurs. Total is 3. Parma have not really been expected to score many goals based on the marketplace, so we'll see if that changes. But for now, I think biggest interest for me is that under 3. A lot because Inter Milan control matches and don't really let the opponent score, and we'll see how much trouble they have scoring themselves against Parma. The 2 matches on Monday, we'll start with Cremonese hosting Lazio. Currently, Cremonese a 1/4 goal underdog at home with all the juice. Probably some pick'ems are out there. Total in this one is 2 1/4, and it's juiced more to the under. Minus 115 to minus 105 to the over. Cremonese are also a team that looks like they're going down. They're in a little bit better shape, I believe, than Verona. And, of course, Pisa, who played today. I don't trust any sort of goal scoring from Cremonese, so that makes playing the 1/4 goal underdog difficult. But Lazio have not been the same team this year after the transfer ban to start the year. Market didn't like them, and I guess has been right. So leaned under 2 1/4 in that matchup. To the last one on Monday, Roma hosting Fiorentina. Currently, Roma a 3/4 goal favorite with all the juice. Looks like that's climbing towards +1. Total in this one is 2.5, and it's juiced more to the over. I don't know who's backing overs with Roma or AC Milan so far this season. I guess it's been happening somewhere, somehow. I just don't really trust it. And I got to say, under's been very interesting, despite a Gasparini side that I don't think anyone really expected that sort of thing this season. From a best bet from the Italian Serie A, let's go with that Bologna Cagliari under 2 1/4 goals. The lunchtime kickoff on Sunday in the Italian Serie A. Well, next move to French Ligue 1, as I am donning, if you're watching this live, or watching it all, Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, there is a video version. If you want to subject yourself to that, good luck. Also on YouTube at @the_Real_G Warner. I'm wearing a Monaco practice kit right now. We'll go to Ligue 1 in France. We'll start with Nantes hosting Marseille. Nantes 3/4 goal underdogs, and there's more juice on that home team. Total in this one is 2 3/4, and it's used very heavily to over. So Marseille have kind of fallen out of the limelight, lost their manager mid-season, or Robert De Zerbi leaving the club. Nantes are in grave danger. Kind of see Hellas Verona from Italia in the last portion of the show. Normally, I'd love to back Nantes here, but I think I need a full goal of insurance, and we don't have that yet. To the next matchup, we'll go to PSG hosting Lorient, coming off of their match midweek with Bayern München, going on the road to Bavaria this week. Maybe you see some eyes potentially drifting towards that one. PSG still 1.5 goal favorites. Yes, they have so much depth, all those sort of things, but Lorient have been very competitive despite being Ligue 2 promoted. Total's 3 1/4 in this one, juiced pretty heavily to over. My concern is that PSG can score whenever, wherever, whenever they want, and that's a big concern. But Lorient 1.5 goal underdogs looks most interesting to me in that matchup. We'll then move to the nightcap on Saturday. That's FC Metz hosting Monaco, as I wear their kit in the practice version. Metz are a 1.5 goal underdog, which is enormous, but reflects how they've been struggling to score goals for a long time. And they were promoted. That's looking like they're going straight back down. The total's 3.5. Just split this one minus 110 both ways. And that feels alarming or just large for a team like Metz who've not been scoring at all, and they're the home team. But Monaco are used to playing on the road. They don't have a great home field advantage anyway in the Principality. So you could argue that all those sort of things don't really matter. Does feel like a very, very low total. A big total for a team that can't score. And I think if Mets play a low-scoring game, which is what they want and probably what they need, I'm very interested in both sides in total. They're both much bigger than I made it. To the last matchup of Saturday, we'll go to Nice hosting Lens. Currently, Nice a 3/4 goal underdog at home, as Lens have been the prom queen of French Ligue 1. Total is 3 in this one, juiced 2 cents more to the under. I don't know that I want anything to do with Nice until they really gut their club and figure out what the heck they're doing. To Sunday, we'll start with Le Havre visiting Lille. Currently, Le Havre a 1.25 goal underdog on the road. Total in this one is 2.5, and it's used pretty heavily to over. Lille have been great after a pretty slow start to the season, really slow half of the season. Le Havre fighting relegation, really give a good. I mean, they compete. They've stayed in Ligue 1 far longer than anyone expected. I think from my perspective, I'll lean to the road underdog. It's bigger than I made it. I guess I lean to under. It's really tough to go on the road and fade Lille, unfortunately. And that's my probably biggest concern in this matchup. To the next one, we'll go to FC Paris, newly promoted. They're hosting Stade Brestois. Currently, Paris, a half a goal favorite at home. All the juice on Brest. Total in this one is 2.5, and it's juiced a little bit more to the under. Brest have been not great ever since their Champions League run, which was awesome and made your boy a lot of money in Champions League, to say the least. Paris have not been that impressive, though, so I'll lean to Stade Brestois as the underdog. I guess it's correlated to under there, so I'll lean that way as well. To the next matchup at 10:15 Central Time, as we have 3 matches in that window, like we do every weekend on Sunday in French Ligue 1. We'll go to a battle at the bottom with Angers hosting Angers. Good luck with me distinguishing those two. Currently, Angers, a 3-quarter goal favorite with almost all the juice, probably because they're in much worse position and they need to win. Angers pretty much have beaten the odds all season. I backed them a million times, and it's been a great experience. But there is some concern that they're safe and they don't have much to worry about going on the road as a big underdog. With that said, lean that way to under and also to underdog, but certainly want to see lineups and make sure that I trust what's out there. Strasbourg then hosts Toulouse, coming off of Strasbourg playing in Europa Conference League midweek. Strasbourg are a pick'em. All the juice is on Toulouse, surprisingly, which is a big change because the market is not like Toulouse really ever since they were playing in Coupe de France a couple weekends ago. Total's 2 3/4. She's very heavily to under. That reflects a bigger total than I made, likely because Strasbourg is going to play some serious backups. But if they don't and they come strong, which I don't expect them to, and the market clearly doesn't, I'm very interested in Strasbourg at home. The last matchup of this French League calendar, I'll get you an ultimate best bet, then get the German Bundesliga, and then eventually get out of here. Lyon, a quarter goal favorite at home to Rennes, which is a little bit smaller than I made it. Choose to split -110 both ways. I'm interested to see how big this number gets, or potentially if Lyon fall to pick them. Total in this one is 2 3/4, and it is juiced pretty heavily to over. Lyon not playing in Europe anymore certainly helps them for scoring goals, but I don't know that I really truly believe that they're going to be that much better. I love the manager of Stade Rennais, even though things did not work out for him at Nice. I'm going to say it wasn't his fault entirely, but we'll see what happens with that matchup, and certainly very curious to see where this side ends up closing on Sunday in the nightcap in France. For my best bet in Ligue 1 in France, there's some danger on this card. I'm going to go where there's the least danger to me, and that's Angers under 2 1/4 goals on Sunday on the road at Angers. A lot of totals on the card so far for this weekend. Last but not least, get to the German Bundesliga. And we'll start in this matchup with TSG Hoffenheim hosting VfB Stuttgart, a battle that not a lot of people expected for Champions League. I'll put it that way. I certainly did not. Currently, Hoffenheim, a pick'em at home with all the juice. Total in this one is 3.5, and it's juiced slightly more to over. Stuttgart are a better team. Hoffenheim have no home field advantage at all, and Stuttgart's pretty close, and I expect there to be a lot of Stuttgart fans in this matchup. Give me Stuttgart. I'm going to be waiting for them to move to quarter goal underdog, though. Totals, not really interested in, because I think we could see a lot of goals or a lot of goal action that doesn't score goals. And I think both teams want to outscore the other, and that's definitely not good for under. Next, go to Bayern Munich, hosting FC Heidenheim, and they have a big matchup with PSG at home midweek in Bavaria. I think that impacts this number quite a bit, as Bayern are 2 goal favorites with a ton of juice on Heidenheim, who are trying to, like heck, to stay up. Got a big win over Union Berlin a couple weekends ago. Total is 4 in this one. So 3-1 is the expected final. I mean, this number could be enormous, and I don't think it would be enough. So for me, I guess I'd lean probably closest to Heidenheim as the side, but I don't want much to do with that one. I'll put it that way. Next, we'll go to Eintracht Frankfurt, hosting ASV Hamburg. Really struggle with that. HSV ASV. Frankfurt are a 3/4 goal favorite right now at home, and they've sort of stabilized under their second official manager of the season, non-caretaker. Total is 3 in this one, just very heavily to over. That reflects Eintracht Frankfurt's struggles on defense. I lean to Hamburg. I think they're fighting for their lives to stay in the Bundesliga after never being relegated, taking 8 years to come back. I'm hoping they stick around because I like what I've seen from them so far. And I think they're going to be a big underdog. We'll see if they climb to a full goal underdog. I don't think they will. It's just, that's only a few hours away from now, but I'll lean that way on Hamburg. And I feel like Eintracht Frankfurt's defense was so bad, it's come around. So I'm interested in that too. To the next game, and it's still the same 3:30 German time window, 8:30 a.m. Central Time, 9:30 Eastern. Union Berlin hosting FC Köln. Very surprised to see Union Berlin pushing up or promoting a manager, a female manager, actually a woman, to lead their squad, though she'd been part of the team for a long time. But Stefan Baumgart, I thought had just signed an extension, but clearly things can go sideways really fast. Well, Köln are a pick'em on the road at Union Berlin, and that not having insurance going on the road to Eisenach is just, it's stupid. So I'm interested in Union Berlin. Yes, they've had some troubles, but I've learned to back them at home as a pick'em, and it's very juiced at the moment, but I like that. Total is 2.5, and it's juiced slightly more to over. Lean to under there as well, as I think Union dictate tempo, especially in their own building. Next, go to Werder Bremen hosting Football Club Augsburg. Currently, Bremen half a goal favorite at home. Almost all the juice on Augsburg away. Total is 3 in this one, juiced pretty heavily to over, and that doesn't really fit because Werder Bremen don't seem like they score goals. Yes, they do sometimes ship them defensively, but the push on 3 is very valuable, and I think Augsburg are underdogs bigger than they should be after stabilizing when they tried to completely change their style of football, and it did not work at all. As for, still got one matchup on Saturday, and that is the Topspiel by Leverkusen hosting RB Leipzig. This is a big battle for finding a way into Champions League. We'll see if that ends up happening, but we'll start, because I'm screwing up the dates. We'll start with Leipzig as a side. They're a quarter goal underdog. Juice is split both ways, so no real telling where that one will go. Total's 3.5. It's right what I made it. We're right on everything in this one, which I feel good about, I guess. But not a lot of value there for me. Lean to Leipzig away from home, but I don't know that I want to play them necessarily and fully believe in what they've accomplished so far this season. It's been impressive, definitely, especially considering how many players had left. But I do feel like they still have some road questions, and honestly, the Leipzig, Leverkusen have been, despite losing as much as they did, you could argue they lost more than Leipzig this season. They've still performed very, very well. We're moving along in Champions League and stuff like that as well. To Sunday, we'll start with FC St. Pauli and Mainz 05. Mainz with an incredible salvation return of Urs Fischer to the Bundesliga. They do this a lot. It seems to be rock bottom, bringing a new manager, and things completely get better. Well, St. Pauli are a pick 'em at home, but all the juice is on Mainz, as it probably should be, because St. Pauli can't score goals. With that said, totals 2.25, and St. Pauli can't score goals. So I'll lean under there, a little bit less than I made it, but the push on 2 is important, and it wins on 2 as well. Let's go to Borussia Mönchengladbach hosting Borussia Dortmund, a battle of Borussias. Currently, Gladbach a half a goal underdog at home. More juice, total is 3, just a little bit more to under. Dortmund don't have a lot to play. Casey Keller was saying a lot about that on a recent broadcast against Leverkusen when they lost at home. Gladbach do have a lot to play, but they're so weak compared to where they were in Champions League just 5 years ago now or so, with Marcus Thuram and others, Breel Bolo, and it's amazing how that squad completely fell apart. But I lean to the home underdog. Dortmund have been, it's hard to check their motivation because they have nothing really to play for. They're going to finish second. They're going to get in Champions League. They don't have DFB Pokal. All those things are tough. Last but not least, the German Bundesliga on this episode, and will be the last game we cover before we get to ultimate best bet. Sport Club Freiburg, a pick'em with almost all the juice at home to VfL Wolfsburg. Total in this one is 2.75, and it's juiced pretty heavily to over. Now, Freiburg are as far as they've ever gotten in a European competition. Good for them. I am very concerned they're rotating like crazy for this matchup because they want to win that. They do have a lot of work to do to try to get up the table and finish in a European place in the German Bundesliga, but they've got a semifinal and a final to get through, and that could get them a Champions League berth. So I would think they're going for that. Champions League would be incredible for that club. But we'll see what the lineup looks like. They're pretty deep, and that's something that they're good about. VfL Wolfsburg on the other side have spent a ton of money over the years, have not gotten much to come from it, and now they look like they're getting relegated, which is incredible from like a Volkswagen sponsor and the money that they take in from that company. I lean to Wolfsburg, though, especially waiting to see this lineup. I think the pick'em suggests that Freiburg are rotating. At a quarter of a goal, I'm interested in Wolfsburg. Until we get there, I'm not. Total is 2 3/4. I also want to look at what Freiburg's going to play. I feel like defending is easier with backups than scoring goals is. So pretty much leaning to the road underdog as well. Would love to get a 3. We'll see if that ends up occurring. Now, for the ultimate best bet from the German Bundesliga, let's go with Union Berlin, a pick'em at home against FC Köln. I just forever and ever think Union as a pick'em at home are exactly where I want to be. And that does it for this episode of the Betting Pitch Soccer podcast. I will be Sir Ryan. Thank you for coming in. Sir Ryan 31. Thank you. If you hit subscribe, hope you're on the channel. As always, join Patreon, patreon.com/real_Warner. But love you coming in, and thank you for commenting, especially this late at night. 41 minutes in. Appreciate that. Other things gonna look out for: Major League Baseball card. Been working that already while watching the NHL tonight. And of course, we'll be doing as much as I can to get stuff out to you as quickly as possible moving forward. Let's see. There's Kentucky Derby episode out there with B. Ben and A. Brooks Bets on this channel. Probably the last video. Just scroll down. And then I'll be tweeting that out, trying to get some more in your hands. So in case I don't miss anything, we'll be putting out a reel, hopefully at the real_G Warner on both Instagram and on YouTube, giving our best bets for the picks to win the race. We also talked about some superfectas, trifectas, all those sort of things, the exotics, and of course, more soccer stuff coming, especially as we gear up for the World Cup, which I cannot wait for. And I'm going to be planning to do a ton of information. If you got any comments or ideas for what you'd like me to cover, hit me up at the real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, YouTube, wherever you can find it, or throw some stuff in on the comments page, leave a 5-star review, and I will reply to it on the next time I see it, next episode I cover. So I'll do the recap of the leagues. Go from the English Premier League. We went Fulham under 2.5 goals. In La Liga in Spain, we went Rayo Vallecano under 2. In Serie A, like under 2.25 goals with Cagliari. Liga in France under 2.25 goals. Angers at Alger. And for the last but not least, German Bundesliga, let's go Union Berlin, a pick'em at home. For the ultimate best bet on this episode, we are going with Getafe, Rayo Vallecano under 2 goals. Don't expect a lot of action in that one. Just watch them paint dry. And we'll see you in the next episode. See you very soon.